Hi, so today we're going to be going over a MacBook Air that has no backlight. So the first thing that we always like to do when we have no backlight is first check the voltage on outputs. So I'm going to turn this on and we're going to check what the voltage is at output because different voltages on output are going to mean different things. So if I have 0 volts on output, do I have 8 volts on output? Do I have 17 volts, 27 volts, or 50? Because each one of these numbers is going to tell me something that I need to know. Now, if you have a schematic or a board view in front of you, what you can do is you can check out ppv out underscore LCD BKLT underscore SW. And let's see if I can get it so that you can see, oh my god, I think I actually got it where you can see the microscope. I mean, where you can see the multimeter. This never happens. Alright, there's no ridiculous glare. You may actually be able to see the voltage same as I see it. So I'm going to check this out right now, and I see that the voltage that I have on backlight output is 0. So 0 usually means broken fuse, not recognizing the screen, or an obvious harsh break in the line, not a partial break. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the backlight fuse, all the way in the beginning of the boost circuit. And when I check the fuse, I have, on one side, I have 8.5 volts, which is great, and on the other side, I have 0.019 volts, which is not good. Now, before I jump to replacing the fuse, I'm going to want to check one thing. I want to see that if there's a short to ground. So let's say that this is my fuse and this is the screen. Now, if there's a short to ground, meaning that there's something over here that's just connecting straight to ground, even if I replace the fuse again, it's just going to blow because all the current is going to go to ground. It's going to ask for too much current, and there's nothing I'll be able to do. So I'm going to unplug it now. This is a big, important one. And I'm going to go right over here, and I'm going to see what my measurement is. It's okay that I wipe my eyes at this point because I haven't touched anything with the gloves that's particularly nasty. I try to check that out. Like, if I'm going to wipe my eye, like, okay, I may have touched stuff with this, but with the outside part of my pinky, did I touch something nasty? I am always cognizant of that so that I don't get, flux in my eye. Somebody asked about that recently. Why is it that you are touching your face with gloves? So right over here, I see that I have what looks to be almost a direct short to ground. Now, if I unplug this, oh my. Okay, so this should be fairly obvious what's going on here. So if I unplug the screen, I get a fairly high reading. But if I plug the screen in, I get a really low reading. And if we were to look over here, under the microscope, you get a bit of an idea of what's going on. So let's just focus this thing. Am I even close to in focus here? And we're going to take a look at what that looks like. So we have an LCD connector that doesn't look really that great. And you can't see that because I forgot to switch the camera over, can you? Alright, so let's switch the camera over. Let's try that again. We're going to try that again. So we're going to switch over the camera. And... Hello? Okay, let's try that again. Unplug. Plug. You piece of shit. Computers, man. Anyway, so if we were to take a look over here, we can finally get this into proper focus in the microscope. And if you want to have a microscope that's similar to the one that I have, I do link in the description to where you can buy it via the Amazon affiliate program. Now, if we were to look over here at the LCD connector, what you're going to notice is that we have a bunch of pins that look healthy on the right side. And this is an IPEX connector, and also an IPEX style connector and cable. So you'll see the IPEX logo over here. We have a bunch of pins that look good, and then over here you have and also the connector itself is a little looking on the left side. So if I do this, let's just make sure we have everything in good focus here. This connector just, it's not, it's not really the connector that's that bad, but this LCD cable is not giving me a lot of confidence, and I'm kind of curious if the LCD connector itself has been compromised by this cable. Did it burn internally? Is that something that I should trust? So obviously that LCD cable is going to have to be replaced, but I am not going to trust the LCD connector that's sitting on this board just because it had that, again, this happened inside of it. So if you look over here, you can see that this was able to completely burn. I don't mean partially burn. I mean there is no black plastic over here, and there are no pins. This metal completely burned and disintegrated. So if that happened, you have to wonder what went on inside that little connector over there. So we're gonna take the board out and get started with the day. So we just have one screw that I have to take out now, and after I take out that one screw, I'll be able to remove the board with ease, because I've already taken out the other screws. So I do this, and we just get rid of all the little cables that are plugged in. It's kind of like being a dentist. Say, unplug all the little cables, take the board out, and we are going to just go ahead and replace that little fuse and the connector. And I thought this would also be a good video to demonstrate a different tip that I got. Different soldering iron tip that I got. Okay, so we put this under the microscope over here. And the first thing that we're going to be doing is removing that that nasty looking fuse. Because that fuse, as I showed you, is completely dead. So I'm just going to turn on the hot air station, since I'm not a big fan of using hot air tweezers. And I'm going to kick on the air filter. Everybody doing this should have some sort of fume extraction. Some fume extractor, not air filter. Used the wrong word there. Because it's not a good idea to inhale any of this stuff. So we're just going to get this in view. And we're going to go from here. Pull the fume extractor over so that it's sucking up all the junk. And we're just going to get this in range. Tough little fuse. This guy doesn't want to come off. You can kind of break it though. And you can see what it looks like internally if you look close enough. I don't have to worry about getting it all off on the other ends. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the soldering iron to remove that. So I can just flush it away with solder and flux, and you're going to see how it is I do that right now. So I'm going to take my solder, and I'm just going to clean the ends of the iron. I'm going to do this. This is a basic tip, not one that I usually use, but you just do this and see how that piece just burned itself right off, and I keep doing this, and bam. So I'm going to tin the ends of each to this, to that. And I'm just going to take a new fuse out of my little bin over here of fuses. Okay, so it looks like I don't have a little bin of fuses over there. That's interesting. So now I have to find out where that went. So we're going to go find out where that went. Alright, so it appears that I actually am out of 0603 fuses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of them off of these not used boards. So these boards that are missing all the pieces are pretty much boards that were just considered junk at the time of inception. Maybe there was a blown via inside or a bad trace, so they just got tossed out after testing. So it's not really a board that's been used at all, so I'm fine with taking a fuse from it. Makes no difference to grab a fuse that hasn't been used from this board versus a fuse that hasn't been used from Mouser.com. But I do have to order some new backlight fuses. It's interesting how rarely this actually goes bad. It's funny, because on this model, the LCD connector will actually burn and the fuse will be totally fine. So I'm just going to preheat the board that I'm taking it from a little bit before I actually steal the part. And I always like to keep the board that I'm putting the stuff on under the microscope so that I don't have to physically move a board while I'm in the process of carrying this tiny fuse over. So do keep note, you don't need extreme accuracy to take a component. You need accuracy to place a component. So I often suggest that people, if you're looking to do something like this, use the board that you're taking stuff from and put that outside of the microscope, if at all possible. We're just going to slowly preheat the board before going in to take our piece. Alright, so we've got our piece. We're just going to place it down over here. And a little bit of gentle heating. And it flows itself into place rather nicely. Get rid of some of that excess solder over there. Okay. Let me go over this connector. Now this looks like it has had something done to it before. As you can see, there is little bits of wick over here. The front of the connector is not really soldered in, and there is a missing pin right by pin 4. So it does look like something has been done to this prior. And we'll also be able to tell just by how easily it comes off if that's leaded or lead-free solder. Of course, the lead-free solder is always going to be much more difficult to remove than the leaded. So here we go. Now, it peeled off a little easier than usual, so I'm inclined to think that this has had some type of work done to it prior. We should get that wick out of where that wick out of the pad over there. That doesn't look very nice at all. Leaving wick behind. Let's get the iron heated up, and we're just gonna go through with some wick. Just remove all that old solder there. Now, if you think of this like, if you think of this just like being a janitor, it makes the process a lot easier. Because if you're trying to solder wick everything perfectly, then you may wind up doing things that you're not supposed to do and ripping pads. I just like to see it like a janitor. Up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm going to turn the board around. Now, one of the things that I always recommend all of you do is you should always orient the board so that it's comfortable for you. Don't focus on the board's comfort. That's something that I don't understand when people are, like, you know, they're twisting and contorting themselves and doing this and this and this so that the board can stay in the same position on the desk. Who cares if the board is comfortable while you're working on it? I don't care if the board is comfortable while I'm working on it. You know? You can report me to PETA if you want. People for the ethical treatment of Apple products, but I don't care. So many things are wrong with PETA. Like, you know there's something wrong with an organization that is for animal rights when Gary Yourofsky is not a fan of them. It's like Jesus denouncing the Pope. Anyway, so we're going to go over here. Now, the first thing that you have to do when soldering any of these type of connectors, push down on it. It has to be flush with the board. So this should be done so that once I'm done soldering the anchors, you actually get a screen because the pins are touching the pad so closely. That's the type of contact that you want. All right. That could have been better. We're going to make that a little bit better. So this... This is not usually the tip that I would use for this application, but it's already on the iron, so we'll make do. Okay, this... I might as well show you what it would look like when I use the tip that I enjoy using. So this tip is better for wicking than the tip that I enjoy using. It's far better for wicking. when it comes to doing stuff like this, when it comes to sheer versatility, nothing's going to beat a T15-JSO2. So watch what happens with the T15-JSO2. Watch how much cleaner I can make that joint look with a tip that wraps around in this nice fashion. I'm going to push down. Watch this. See how the tip kind of wraps around? Oh, look at how much cleaner that is. See, the tips make a really big difference. And one of the things I love about the HAKKO stations and the HAKKO irons is there's just an amazing selection of tips, and they actually have tips that do what I want. Because you have so many irons that have 30 different tips, and they have 30 different tips that all don't do what I want. But the T15-JSO2, it just, I mean, look at that. Look at that. That is factory right there. This is beautiful. This is soldering connector porn right there. That is just beautiful. And I get that because I can wrap this around. It's not just a regular tip. See, it has that indentation on it, and I can wrap that indentation of the tip around the natural bend of the joint, and it is just better than sex, folks. Let me tell you, it's just, when you can get a solder joint that looks that good, what else would you rather do with your Friday night? Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to be doing this section in the front over here, and you want to be careful while doing the front. You want to be particularly careful to not get solder inside the connector. If you get solder inside the connector, it's game over for you. Particularly if you're going to be doing this for somebody who's putting back together their own stuff. God help you if you manage to get solder inside the connector, because then they're going to try to push the LCD inside the connector, and they're not going to know that it's not supposed to be difficult to do that. And then they're going to rip the connector off the board along with all the pads. Not only will it wind up coming back as warranty work for you, it will also be unfixable, and that is just something that is just really, really bad all around. So usually I would do a drag soldering technique at this point, but what I want to do is I want to demonstrate a different tip that I haven't been using as much lately, which is on the HAKKO micro pencil. I do have a link to where you can buy this in the list of Amazon affiliate program links below. Because people are always asking what gear I use, and I figured it's easy if I just put links down there. So now, somebody asked me recently what tips I like and why, and I think I just showed you why I like that T15-JSO2. It's the versatility of it. It has that fine point, but it also has that big elbow so that I have a high thermal mass when I need high thermal mass, when I want a lot of heat to go to a specific location. Now, the thing I like about this the T30-KN, which is the tip that I'm showing you right here, expensive tip, $40 tip, is that it's a blade. So when I need a higher, and it's a smaller tip overall, but it has this blade tip when I need a high thermal mass. So for example, when I want to get solder this joint, which is to a ground plane, which is going to be difficult, I can do this. And of course it's not going to work because I'm doing a video to try to demonstrate it, but that's the way of the world. So I can do this. Been better. And then when I want to do the small individual pins, I can just do it like this. If I want to get rid of a bridge, I can do this. I'm literally doing the opposite of exactly what I'm telling you. Do you guys notice that? It's doing the exact opposite of what I'm telling you I'm about to do. I'm kind of curious what those last two pins in the connector are actually for, because if they're supposed to be bridged together, then screw it, they can stay bridged together. Let's see, on an 820-3435, the last two pins of the LCD connector. Okay, the last pin is ground, and the second to last pin is ground. So, yeah, you know what? Why am I killing myself? All right, let's go back to the other side. So we're going to go back over here to the other side of the connector. And can I heat that ground plane with a micro pencil? And the answer is just barely. Now let's try going over each individual pin. This is a different way of doing it over the way that I usually do. So I'm going to heat the pin and the pad and go. Pin, pad, boom. Just a different way of accomplishing the same thing. That's the one that was ripped. Remember, the reason that I find it important to heat the pin as well as the pad is the solder is going to go to what is hot. So if the pad is hot but the pin is cold, it's not going to make a connection around the pin, and that is important because you have to have, it has to be a connection between both. You don't want it to be at a point where inside the actual solder joint it's empty or hollow, or it's not making real contact with the pin. That's why I want to see the pin get hot as well as the pad. It's not just about throwing solder and having the solder fall. It has to genuinely flow. And when I see that the pin itself has turned silver, I know that it's flown all around the pin. So that's what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to go over each individual pin. And the way that works is the way that works for you. But I just want to give you I want to show you, because I never do it this way, that there's more than one way to do any of this stuff. And I honestly, as much as I enjoy the dragging technique, I would say that you should be able to do this first before you fast forward to the shortcut of dragging. Now notice that some of them just naturally bridge a lot easier than the others, and the ones that naturally bridge easier are the ones that are actually bridging the board. So if you look over here, you see how this is a path, and that path goes to both of those pins. So I could keep that bridge there, and I would be just fine. And one thing you'll notice is that it will be really difficult to remove that bridge because they are naturally connected on the board. But see, the thing I love about this, it's a fine point, right? This is a fine pointed iron if I use it like this at the edge of the knife, but if I need high thermal mass to remove a bridge, I can do this and it turns into an entirely different tool. So it's very inefficient if you have to change tips all the time, every time you make a mistake, or you have to do something different. If I had to change tips every time I bridge something, oh my God, I would get nothing done. What makes this iron particularly nice is that I can change the tip. See, right now I'm a fine point iron, but over here, I can turn it into a different style altogether, and that's just beautiful. Now let's just get rid of some of the bridging. Now, the larger bridges, a micro pencil is simply not going to flow. There's a limit to how much you're going to get out of a 45 watt micro pencil. It does have a smaller area, it does have smaller power output. When I go to the big iron, and the cool thing is that I can use either iron on the FX951 station over here. I just unplug, plug the other one in, and I'm set and ready to go. So what I can do over here is, once that heats up a little bit, I can clean off that one, and I can do this. Let's flow the anchor joints in better. Bam. See, now I can remove the short right on those two. Although it's not necessary. It's just for cosmetic purposes. And then I can just flow this one a little bit better. And not a big deal, it's just a good practice. So we have our pins. And this one, of course, is missing, but that doesn't actually go to anything. So it's okay that that one be missing. So you've seen a different way of doing the exact same thing today. But the really important thing now is to see if this actually works. Does it create a light? Does it turn on? Or have we just wasted our time? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a MacBook Air cracked test screen. I'm pretty sure I have one in here somewhere. Or not. Let's see. If it's not over here, then it must be over there. If it's not over there, that means it's probably over here. And over here it is. So we go over here, we grab ourselves a nice little tester screen. use this little thing. By the way, thank you very much to the people who sent me the foot pedals. I didn't receive one foot pedal. I received a foot pedal and even a remote control switcher, which is very, very kind of you. Very nice thing to do. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna plug this in, and the facial focus in this camera is good. See, because this is one thing that I noticed. This is one of those areas where, like, I like the Sony. Like, I didn't even notice how spoiled I was by how good the face autofocus is here. If you watch some of Linus's WAN shows, and no insult to Linus, but if you watch some of his WAN shows, you'll notice that when they turn their head around, the camera will actually focus on what's in front of them rather than on them. It's a really subtle thing, but I noticed that. It's like, huh. And then after I noticed it on Linus's video, I started noticing it on a lot of different videos that I was watching. But with this, watch, I'm going to turn my head around. Is it going to focus on the microscope, or is it going to stay focused on me? Even though, look, it knows to stay focused on my head, even though I've turned around. So the face autofocus on this thing is really great. Because you can have autofocus where it'll naturally focus on some other item. But the face focus on this is so good that even when the face goes out of view, the camera knows to stay focused on this. And you may think that that's silly, but there are cameras out there that cost $1,000, $2,000. You can buy a $2,000 camera, and it'll have a lot of different focusing features on it. But the problem is that it won't have face detection that's as good as what's on the Sony NEX-EA50, which I think now is a discontinued camcorder. See, when I turn around, it's not going to automatically change focus to something else. If I have it on face mode, it's going to say, okay, the last time I saw a face was right here. So let's say focused on this plane. There's something to think about. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who watches the WAN show. I apologize if now all you're looking for is when they turn around how the face goes out of focus. I always manage to focus on the wrong thing. Nope, I guess so does some of these cameras. We're going to turn it on, and as with most of the MacBook Air 2013-14 editions, if they had an RTC, they do an RTC reset if you unplug the battery and the charger and there's nothing to boot from. But as you can see, there's a light. Wait. This is so obnoxious. Okay, as you can see, there's a light. You can't because I have the camera light on. Okay, let's try this again. As you can see, until I unplugged it, there was a light. All right, let's try that again. It's okay if I blew a backlight fuse because I can replace it. Let's plug that in again. There we go. I really should edit this stuff. I really should edit these videos. These videos would benefit from editing. I would look so much smarter if I edited. You have no idea. Alright, so I'm going to show you this. I've got my tester drive in there. It's an SSD that has like a 2 megabyte per second read and write rate. I just use it to tell if a machine can see a drive. It's like some dead SanDisk. Alright, we got the logo. As you can see, it works. And if you want to check out any of the equipment that I've mentioned here, from microscopes to soldering stations to hot air stations, tweezers, any of that, as always, I do have links in the description to where you can buy any of this stuff. And if you buy it, does support the channel. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something.